My 44 male, wife 41 female, was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend/co-writer 36 male, and I've grown a bit nervous. As I previously said, we may be too forthcoming about our previous relationships. Her first spouse had a history of infidelity. He was a musician who slept with the ladies he met during his shows. She came into his emails and discovered that he was associated with 5 other women, one of whom he'd gotten pregnant with. Not wanting their kid to grow up in a shattered household, she sought advice from one of her old online pals, whom we'll refer to as Chris. The two had been friends for 7 years, but had never met. They were writing partners. In fact, before they lost touch, they were working on a book together. She tells me that when she sought out for help, he was really polite and had been offering a lot of methods to move beyond infidelity or what you should talk to an attorney about, in general being a good buddy. They decided to rewrite their novel sometime along the way. They would casually flirt, she said, but since they lived on separate ends of the country, they couldn't act on it. In the midst of all of this, she decided her marriage was over and stopped attempting to mend things, I suppose checking out. She and Chris were attracted to one another, and before the end of the year, he had flown out to see her. She filed for divorce shortly after the affair became physical, and Chris relocated to live with her later that year. To cut a long tale short, her kid, who was only 5 years old at the time, did not like him. He didn't do anything wrong, she claims, but she wasn't coping well after the divorce and didn't want someone to replace her father. My wife informed him they needed to take a break because of this and because he can be a little rude at times. She had only planned for it to be a temporary pause, but he was supposedly so upset that he traveled it far just to be rejected down 2 months and that he cut it off completely. They rejoined months later to attempt to complete their novel. During this time, they started sleeping together again, although it was just for physical reasons. They were almost done with the book when she began seeing me, so they stopped sleeping together. She felt strange having an ex around after she entered into a serious relationship, so she admittedly stopped responding to his emails, which were all book-related, with the same regularity and stopped working on it as much on her end. After a few months of this, he became irritated and blocked her on everything. That leads us to a month ago. He contacts her out of the blue after 4 or 5 years of no communication. He became infected with COVID and almost died as a result. Chris approached her because, allegedly during their time apart, he revised the book without her input, had it published, created and published a sequel and released his work, which was on the verge of being unfinished if he died. He wanted to make it clear that if anything happened to him, he wanted the rights to this item given over to her since she knows how the narrative would finish and help develop it. Okay, it really sounds lovely, but then they start chatting. He's allegedly working on a comic adaptation, and he's encouraged her to be a part of it. He's finished a lot of the work, and she was really pleased to show me and tell me about all the characters, their backstories, and what she feels he went wrong in the design. She also read the first book and is telling me whose names he altered, which characters were and weren't in their version, the narrative variations, and she seemed to be having a great time with it. I knew they wrote together since she mentioned it previously, but I had no clue they had developed a whole world. I can see that was something very significant to her. She seemed to be considering accepting his offer, which concerns me. They've had every time they've worked on anything in the past. There is also some element in their literature. I'm not the jealous kind, and I definitely don't want to want a dream she buried, but I also don't want history to repeat itself. I'll confess that I eavesdropped on their chat, and although he seems to be on the level and is just talking the project, she's asking for details about his personal life. I wouldn't say flirtatiously, but she asked him if he was dating someone right now, and when he said no, he's too busy, and that relationships simply get in the way, she told him he needed to get back out there. That celibacy doesn't reflect well on him. We're quite open about our previous lives, so I know her ex-husband was bad at it, and once when she was drunk, she remarked to Chris, "Don't let a wonderful persuade you, it'll be a terrific relationship." How am I supposed to proceed? I understand that her ex-husband emotionally destroyed her, which is why she cheated. But she did cheat with this guy. I've met him, and he seems to be a nice person, but they have a past, and something bad may happen. I want to contact my wife with my issues, but I don't want to come off as obnoxious or domineering. I want her to have a creative outlet because she shines in a manner I've never seen before when she speaks about this book I've never heard of. It seems that it was something very essential to her that she pushed to be unimportant. I want it for her, but I don't want their encounters to grow further, as they have 3 times already. Story 2. Husband cheats after 15 years of marriage. My husband, 40 male, has been cheating on me for the last 6 years, and I, 35 female, just found this. This is going to be a lengthy one, so thank you in advance for reading. When I was in college, I married my spouse. He was 5 years my senior, and it seemed like I had found the love of my life. He was flawless in every sense. He had a steady job, his own home, and was kind in every way. Anyway, fast forward to 2015, and I had just found out that I am infertile. This led to a path of sadness and mental breakdowns for me. Throughout this period, my husband was kind and reassuring to me that all he needed was me. We continued to attempt to have a kid, and I even considered adoption. However, we both subsequently abandoned that plan and continued to attempt to conceive with the assistance of professionals. We tried until 2020, when I fell pregnant miraculously and with the aid of drugs, and it seemed like I was in paradise. It was pure joy. Anyway, I lost my work during the epidemic and suffered a miscarriage in May, so it's reasonable to say I was sad and couldn't even get out of bed. At the moment, all I needed was my husband's support, since I didn't have the desire to live. He was, however, behaving aloof and staying late at work every night. There were times when I didn't see him at all. I couldn't eat, I couldn't speak, and it seemed like every barrier was closing in on me. That's when my sister, 27 female, whom we'll call Mary, moved in with us to help me. She has a 5-year-old kid from a one-night fling, and the baby's father refuses to see her or the child. Her son is my parents' sole grandchild, and everyone in the family adores him. I was relieved to hear Mary was coming over since we were so close, and I just needed some reassurance. When Mary arrived, I spoke to her, she sobbed with me, and I felt as though I could get through this with her aid. So, Mary stayed in my room one night, and when I woke up, she wasn't there. I didn't think much more about it, and went back to sleep. This occurred a couple more times, so one night I woke up to check where she was, and that's when my 15-year marriage came to an end. I went upstairs and saw my sister in bed with my husband. What occurred next is a little hazy. There was a lot of yelling and tossing things from my side, as well as pleas and from Mary and my husband. None of them appealed to me. It's as if seeing made me so furious and upset that I didn't care about anything else. I departed in the middle of the night to go to my parents' place. I'm at a loss for words to describe the next few days. I couldn't hold back my tears. Mary came over to our parents' place the next day, and my unfaithful husband had the audacity to accompany her. They were not let in since my parents were also appalled by them. My father threatened to remove Mary from his will, which enraged her. She began yelling and raving about a variety of topics, and that is when she revealed that her son's father is my husband, and they had been sleeping for years. She stated I had to forgive her because she had fallen in love with my husband and she couldn't control it. She also claimed that he had been supporting them for years and had only remained with me because he felt pity for an infertile middle-aged lady like myself. Her words, not mine. As I listened to all of this, I felt as if someone had torn my heart out. Things couldn't possibly get much worse, but they did. 6 years of adultery with my own sister. They both deceived me, so I divorced my husband without hesitation and severed my relationship with my sister. She was no longer my sister. My parents also cut them off. They assisted me in locating a lawyer and ensuring that I never saw my slime of a husband again. My divorce has been finalized, and I haven't seen my sister since that fateful day. I didn't even go back to my home to get my belongings, since I couldn't bear the notion of visiting that place again. My father went to fetch my belongings. I requested him to assist me with relocating to another city, and he did that as well. I did relocate, and I am now far away from my now ex-husband and sister. But now that I'm alone, all I can think about is what occurred. Initially, I believe it was my fury that gave me the strength to file for divorce and relocate. Now my fury has been replaced with terrible melancholy, and I'm at a loss for what to do. My folks contact me every day and insist that I visit a therapist. They want to assist in any way they can, and I will be eternally grateful to them. But how can I avoid thinking about what occurred every single day? How can I stop thinking about my sister's betrayal, which hurts much more than my husband's? How can I ever look at my adorable nephew without remembering this betrayal? I apologize once again for the length of this. I simply wanted a place to speak about it.